You're lying on your bed, phone 6 inches from your face, scrolling through an online store you didn't mean to open. The brightness is too high, but you leave it. Your thumb slows on something small, a minor upgrade. Better version. Slightly faster, slightly cleaner, slightly newer than what you already have. You don't feel excited, just pulled. You check the price. Not cheap, not painful. You tell yourself you've been working hard. It should at least work properly. 2 taps later, it's done. Quiet, no celebration. Just a confirmation screen and a strange sense of relief, like you fixed something that wasn't urgent but didn't sit right either. 3 days later, the package shows up. You open it carefully, almost like it matters. The new thing looks exactly how you pictured it, just better than the old one in a way that's hard to put into words. You use it. It works. Smoother, faster, slightly more satisfying. But the feeling fades. By the end of the week, it's just normal. The old version, the one that bothered you, barely exists in your memory now. You don't think about it until the next thing starts to feel slightly off. There's something strange about that. You didn't upgrade because you had to. Nothing broke. Nothing failed. You upgraded because the old version started to feel unacceptable, not unusable, just wrong. And that feeling didn't come from the object itself. It crept in, quietly, over time. Like background noise you can't quite place. A slow shift in what good enough feels like. I'm Damon, and I've started noticing that most upgrades don't fix problems. They reset the baseline, then charge you to stay there. Because once you step into that new baseline, everything behind it starts to decay. Not physically, but in your head. And hey, quick cut. If you want more breakdowns like this, you know what to do. The phone you used for 2 years without complaints suddenly feels slow. The chair you sat in every day now feels uncomfortable. The apartment you liked feels small. Nothing changed. Your tolerance did. That's where the cost starts. It doesn't hit all at once. It spreads, quietly. You upgrade your phone, so now you expect everything to be faster. Apps, loading times, even conversations start to feel like they should move quicker. You upgrade your workspace, so working anywhere else feels like a step down. You upgrade your lifestyle, and maintaining it stops being optional. Every upgrade comes with a hidden subscription, higher expectations, lower satisfaction, and a constant need to keep things from slipping. Look at the numbers, not the story you tell yourself. That small upgrade wasn't just the price up front. It's the accessories that now feel necessary. The services that make it worth it. The habits that form around it. You didn't just buy a better version. You signed up to maintain it. And maintaining it costs time, attention, and money in ways you don't track. It shows up in late-night food delivery because your schedule leaves you too drained to cook. The ride you book because walking feels inefficient now. The subscription you forget to cancel because it's tied to something you upgraded months ago. Each one is small, easy to ignore, but stacked together, they turn into a system of leaks, tiny outflows that do not stop. And the part that stings is how invisible it is. You don't feel poorer, not right away. Your life might even look better from the outside, cleaner, faster, more put together. But underneath, something tightens, less margin, less flexibility, more decisions shaped by maintaining what you already have instead of choosing what you actually want. You start arranging your life around your upgrades, working a little more to justify them. Saying yes to things you don't really care about because saying no feels more expensive now. You get a bit more tired, a bit more dependent, a bit less free, without ever making a single dramatic mistake. Because this isn't just about money. That's the easy part to measure. What's harder to see is how upgrades reshape your behavior. They don't just change what you own. They change what you tolerate, what you expect, what starts to feel uncomfortable to live without. And once that threshold moves, it rarely comes back. That's where it goes deeper. Because now you're not just buying things, you're buying versions of yourself. A version who needs better tools, better environments, better conditions just to feel normal. And the more you invest in that version, the harder it is to step outside of it. So the next time something feels slightly outdated, slightly off, slightly not enough, you'll probably fix it. And it'll probably cost more than you think. What's happening here isn't random, and it isn't about weak discipline. There's a pattern under it. Psychologists call part of it hedonic adaptation, the way your satisfaction resets after improvement. But that's just the surface. The deeper mechanism is simpler. Your brain doesn't measure value in absolute terms. It measures it against what you've experienced recently. So when something better enters your life, it doesn't just add comfort, it rewrites your scale. The old baseline doesn't stay neutral, it drops. And this is where it stops being a feeling and becomes a system. Markets figured this out a long time ago. Not by design at first, by watching behavior. If people can't become infinitely richer, their expectations can still keep moving. You don't need to sell a whole new life. You just need to make the current one feel slightly insufficient. That's why upgrades aren't dramatic anymore. They're incremental. Just enough improvement to notice, not enough to feel done. Faster, but not fast enough. Better, but not best, because the cycle would end if it ever felt complete. Instead, it keeps you moving. Not chasing perfection, just trying to get back to normal. And normal keeps drifting. This is the part most people avoid sitting with, because it means a lot of what feels like personal desire isn't fully yours. That quiet discomfort before you upgraded, the sense that something was off, that wasn't a clear signal. It was a gap, a manufactured distance between where you are and where you've been nudged to think you should be. Once that gap opens, your brain treats closing it like a problem, not a want, a fix. So you fix it. But every time you do, you reinforce the loop. You teach your brain that discomfort leads to action, action leads to spending, and spending leads to relief, not happiness. RELIEF, relief. And relief works differently. It doesn't feel like pleasure. It feels like pressure disappearing, like scratching something that's been bothering you all day. That's why it's so easy to justify, even when you're not excited. You're not chasing joy. You're trying to remove friction. And that's harder to resist because it feels reasonable. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. The system works best when you're doing well. When you have a bit more money, a bit more stability, a bit more access. Because now you can respond to every small discomfort instead of ignoring it. You can smooth everything out, optimize everything, remove every inconvenience until there's no rough edge left to absorb pressure. At that point, even a small downgrade feels sharp. That's how people end up feeling tight financially while earning more than they used to. It's not that income failed, it's that their baseline moved faster than their margin. They didn't fall behind. They recalibrated too far, too fast. And once you're there, maintaining your life starts to feel like holding something in place. You're not building, you're stabilizing, preventing things from slipping, paying to keep things where they are. That's a different kind of effort. But this isn't about blaming yourself. The environment is built to do this. Every product, every interface, every comparison quietly pushes your reference point upward. Not in big jumps, in small constant nudges. So if your standards keep rising without you choosing it, that's not a flaw. That's exposure. The leverage comes from realizing you don't have to accept every new baseline handed to you. You can interrupt it. Not by rejecting upgrades entirely, but by changing how they enter your life. Right now, most upgrades are reactive. Something feels off and you fix it. No delay, no distance, just friction, then action. That's the loop. So you start with timing. You put space between noticing and acting. Not a vague, think about it, a rule. A fixed delay that turns impulse into observation. When something feels outdated, you keep using it, on purpose, while paying attention to what actually feels wrong. Most of the time, the discomfort fades before the deadline. Not because the product changed, because your perception settled. And if it doesn't fade, at least now you're upgrading from clarity, not irritation. Another shift is separating function from feeling. Right now, they blur together. Something feels off, so you assume it's not good enough. But those are different signals. One is real, one is psychological. When you ask, is this actually failing or does it just feel outdated? You catch a lot of false alarms. You also start seeing how often better doesn't change outcomes, just the experience. And experience is where the trap sits. Then there's the constraint most people avoid. You cap your upgrades, not your spending, your standard. You decide in advance what level is enough in certain areas, and you hold it, even when better options show up. Not because you can't afford them, but because you understand what they'll do to your expectations. It's a way of freezing parts of your baseline on purpose, so everything else doesn't have to keep rising to match. And maybe the subtlest shift is this. You stop fixing every discomfort. You let some things stay slightly inefficient, slightly outdated, slightly imperfect. Not as a sacrifice, as insulation. Those rough edges give your life somewhere to absorb pressure without forcing a response. Without them, every small friction becomes a decision, and every decision becomes a potential cost. Send this to someone who keeps fixing things that weren't actually broken. Because once you see how your normal gets rewritten, you start choosing which version of it you're willing to live inside. Not everything that feels off needs to be corrected. Sometimes it just needs time to settle back into place.